Estate agents should love their competition. Today I'm joined by Oli Sherlock, who is from Goodlord. And Oli, before we switch the cameras on, you said estate agents should love their competitors. What have you been smoking, mate? Talk to me.
I think estate agents and suppliers should love their competitors. I think there's too much made of kind of one-upmanship, and actually, first of all, the world would be really boring, wouldn't it, if we had no competition? And actually, from a customer choice perspective, the better the competition, often the better the market. And I've seen on LinkedIn more recently across agency, across suppliers, this more sort of jibing sort of rhetoric of we're just bigger than you. And I know you love a pie chart, Chris.
Love a pie chart.
And I think actually
You might as well just get your willy out and wave it around.
exactly. And I think more importantly, what's happening here is we're kind of ignoring the good parts of our competitors. And actually, I think, you know, looking at what they offer, especially in a changing landscape for agency, is really helpful. Yeah.
Okay, so before we go on and talk about why it's important, why do you think agents watching this and suppliers are really focused on their competition?
I think there's a healthy way to be focused and an unhealthy way.
Okay.
So I think unhealthy, you just try and emulate everything your competitor does. You care more about what they do maybe than you do. And there's not many like that in our industry, actually, I don't think. But
it's an estate agency though, isn't it? You know, I lost it out to that agent. And
well, I think what's remarkable is that's true, but also then all the fees are exactly the same. So there's a marked difference.
I lost it to cheap fees, but they all charge
we all change the same fees. And this is really the genesis of the point, I suppose, when it comes to agency around competitors, because ultimately, you know, understanding and loving what your competitors do, I actually think makes you a better business, whether you're a supplier or
that's taking reference from your competition. But there is, I can say this statement, you might not be able to, but estate agents hate Rightmove more than they do their competitors. And whilst they hate losing to the listings, you've got everyone in the town together saying, let's all leave Rightmove. No one would, because they're worried that their competitors would.
Yeah, and I think the truth with Rightmove is that there's yet to be a formidable competitor that can actually challenge the consensus of the buying individuals, the consumers. And that's really where the ears are for Rightmove. But for agency and suppliers, you know, the word hate has come up in LinkedIn posts more recently or in the wider market. And I find that astounding, because actually, I really believe that competitors push you to be much, much better than your original selves. Again, that's the whole point of competition, isn't it?
It is, but again, fascinating. Let's roll the clock back to 2018, 2014, 15. Purple bricks were flying up the charts. Yeah, the most they ever got was 4 or 5% market share nationally.
Sure.
And everyone was running around like headless chickens, worried about it.
But look at how other businesses have evolved because of that. Look at what they've done in light of Purple Bricks. And I'm going to make an argument that Goodlord has been a similar trailblazer, hopefully a bit more successful than Purple Bricks, arguably. But look at how competitors have reacted since. Look at how their business models have changed. Look at the advent of self-employed agency. Look at the advent of online portals, both landlords and tenants within agency sites themselves. I'd argue the genesis of that
good stuff.
Is those.
Yeah,
those
but why are they focused so much in the first place? So there's so much emotion.
Well, it's fear, right? It's fear. It's no different. I've been with Goodlord nearly a decade, pretty much from the inception. I've seen that in our supply world. It's fear of change. It's fear of what you don't understand.
Isn't it fear of loss?
I think, depending on your perspective, maybe. But I'd argue that's a poor perspective. I think.
Well, of course, it's a poor perspective, but that's probably why they're doing it. I mean,
maybe.
I even would go as far to say there's a certain amount of entitlement that, because they are, I'm the #1 agent in the town, I deserve. How dare these people come in?
I can certainly speak from a supplier perspective and say that is true. I mean, there's definitely entitlement in the supply world. In terms of, we've been around for longer. We're meant to be the biggest.
Yes.
We know more than you.
CRMs, particularly.
And all of a sudden, actually, something like CRMs, for example, Street, for example, can come along and feel fresh and invigorate. Now, if you look at the response to Street from the other CRMs, again, a really good example of where competition is brilliant. Because I argue that's pushed push the other CRMs to be better and better. And I think in our space, we've done exactly the same on tenant referencing, rent protection insurance. We were the first pre-tenancy business. So, you know, there's examples at different sort of
Yes, because if
sector
you don't mind me
elements.
saying, Goodlord, because again, you fall into that trap that most prop tech suppliers do, is you can't tell me what you do in a sentence, and you're not allowed to use the word solution. But basically, you're an end-to-end tenant onboarding system, aren't you?
End-to-end pre-tenancy business, exactly that.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that was challenging for the market, right? You see a lot of
Were you first to market?
we were first to market in that
And,
space.
and there's
Yeah.
a few of you now, isn't there? But at least you're the, you know, that you're at the vanguard and not the guard's van.
Well, nearly everyone claims to do.
You like that one?
I did like that one. Nearly everyone claims to do what we do, but ultimately we think we do it much, much better.
Of course, you'll say that.
Of course, but I think customer numbers suggest that too. If you look at our growth, for example, both on a customer size, a volume perspective, you know, we're going to serve 1 million tenants. 1 million tenants will go through our platform in the next 12 months. But I want to get back onto the points around competitors in the agency and supplier space, because this idea of loving your competition, I think there's some really cool takeaways when you look at it from a different perspective, that actually you can make a better ecosystem because of it. We should all be thinking about customer outcome.
You're so right.
What's the best customer outcome here? And it's ultimately about having a better and better experience.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest competitor is Jerry Lyons in the writing of the content space. But we actually have an agreement where if I have a client and someone approaches me, I'll pass him on and vice versa.
Yeah.
And we've done some collaborative work as well. He's been on here a few times.
Sure.
And in fact, there's someone else who I'm helping because he's you know, only just started doing content.
Yeah.
And I'm helping him. And, you know, people say, well, why are you doing that? Well, it gets awfully boring when you're an incumbent and, you know, and you just got to.
Competition's
Gotta
good for the
help.
market.
It's
It's great for your viewership, right? The fact that you have somebody that you can jostle with, in fact, you have somebody that you can learn from. And there's not enough said about that either. I think, you know, we all want to be winners, right? We all want, especially in a competitive space, you want to be number one, the biggest. But in reality, we're all learning from each other. You know, we take on so much value from CRMs, for example. We take so much value on from our competitive sort of tenant referencing businesses.
I mean, and it's rife. It's rife in the industry. I mean, look at the amount of estate agents that put, you know, 46, 47% of homes that come onto the market will never sell because they've been overvalued because the agent were absolutely horrid that they lose the listing to their competitor, so they'll overvalue it so they don't lose it because of their fragile ego.
Yeah, and it depends by what metric you deem success, doesn't it? So I think
So right.
in lettings especially, we really are having to, because of the market itself, having to come away from the idea that, you know, that volume pie chart is the king or queen. In reality, the king or queen of lettings, moving forward to the Renters' Rights Act especially, is going to be revenue per let. Nobody cares whether you're doing 1,000 lets. If you're doing them all at really cheap fees, that's of no matter. Revenue per let is going to be the biggest.
So right. I mean, interestingly, I do, as I'm sure you're aware, I do the stat show each week, and I pick up the phone to the people, and there are people whose market share has gone down from like 10% to 7%, but because their fees have gone up, and because I can see their saleability's gone up, they're actually earning a lot more money.
Exactly, and that's full circle back to this competitive point, because that's value perception from the consumer. Do I perceive that I'm getting more value with you than your competitors? And that's ultimately what people will pay for. So it's not, you know, being the biggest and the best is great. If you can be that, then fantastic. And there's so many brilliant businesses across our sector, across agency, essentially, that really can say that with confidence. But the truth is, there's such an opportunity there for a number of players to be really good at what they do, but just explain themselves better than their counterpart competitor. And for agency, I think that's the opportunity through the Renters' Rights Act.
Maybe we could talk about that in a separate video.
Indeed.
Thank you for your time today, Ollie.
Thank you, Chris.